Let's first look into the Cynics, whom Zeno was originally a student of, and then we will move on to Chrysippus, the systematizer. To understand why Zeno needed to invent preferred indifference, you have to understand the extreme, radical, and often disgusting philosophy he was trying to escape: Cynicism. The Cynics were the punk rockers of the ancient world. They didn't just talk about philosophy, they performed it. They believed that civilization itself was a disease, and that the only way to be free was to live like a wild animal. Here is the deep dive into the men who taught Zeno, and why he ultimately had to refine their teachings. 1. The name. The dog philosophers. The word cynic comes from the Greek word kion, meaning dog. They were called this for two reasons. The insult. They lived on the street, ate off the ground, barked at people they didn't like, and performed bodily functions in public. The badge of honor. The Cynics owned the name. To them, the dog is the perfect animal. It eats when hungry, sleeps when tired, protects its friends, and bites its enemies. It has no shame and needs no money. 2. The icon. Diogenes of Sinope. While Antisthenes founded the school, Diogenes made it famous. He is one of the most eccentric figures in human history. His lifestyle. He lived in a large ceramic wine jar, a pithos, on the streets of Athens. He owned nothing but a cloak, a stick, and a beggar's bag. He famously threw away his only wooden bowl after seeing a peasant boy drink water from his cupped hands. Diogenes said, "Fool that I am, to have been carrying superfluous baggage all this time." His philosophy of shamelessness. Diogenes believed that if an act is natural, eating, sleeping, sex, it cannot be shameful. Therefore, it should be done in public. When he was hungry, he ate in the marketplace, which was considered taboo. When he felt sexual urges, he masturbated in the town square. When people complained, he famously replied, "If only I could banish hunger by rubbing my belly as easily as I banish lust." The Alexander encounter. The most famous story involves Alexander the Great. The most powerful man in the world stood over Diogenes while he was sunbathing and asked, "I am Alexander the Great. Ask me for anything, and I shall give it to you." Diogenes didn't even sit up. He squinted and said, "Stand out of my sunlight." Alexander was so impressed by a man who wanted nothing that he said, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." 3. The teacher. Crates of Thebes. This is the man who actually taught Zeno. Crates was originally a wealthy citizen, but after reading about Diogenes, he gave away his massive fortune to the citizens of Thebes so he could have the freedom of poverty. The lentil soup lesson. Zeno's initiation. When Zeno first came to Athens, he was a wealthy merchant, worried about his reputation. He started following Crates. Crates noticed Zeno was too concerned with looking proper. So, Crates took a pot of lentil soup, poor people's food, and smashed it over Zeno's legs in a crowded area. Zeno, covered in soup, tried to run away in embarrassment. Crates shouted, "Why run away, my little Phoenician? Nothing terrible has happened to you." The lesson. You are a slave to what other people think of you. Until you stop caring about social embarrassment, you are not free. 4. The core dogma. What Zeno kept versus what he rejected. Zeno took the core of Cynicism, but he realized its implementation was flawed. What Zeno kept, the Stoic core. Virtue is the only good. Money, fame, and power do not matter. Only character matters. Cosmopolitanism. The Cynics were the first to say, "I am a citizen of the cosmos," rather than a citizen of a specific city. Follow nature. We must live in accordance with the laws of nature. not the arbitrary laws of men. What Zeno rejected, the Stoic innovation. The rejection of civilization. The Cynics believed you couldn't be a philosopher and have a job or a house. Zeno realized that if everyone lived like Diogenes, humanity would die out. The shamelessness. Zeno saw that social norms, like wearing clothes, weren't evil, they were just indifferent. There was no virtue in being gross just to prove a point. Summary. The pivot point. Cynicism was a philosophy of subtraction. Remove money, remove house, remove shame equals happiness. Zeno invented Stoicism as a philosophy of integration. Keep the money, keep the house, but remove the attachment to them. The Cynics were the shock troops who cleared the ground. Zeno was the architect who built the fortress. But the fortress needed strong walls to keep the critics out. That is where Chrysippus comes in.